Here we go. Berlin 2024, where art and design meet. So, first things first, important dates. This is all, of course, available on our website, and these slides are linked, so don't feel like you need to scribble any of this down. But let's just go over a couple of quick important dates. Obviously, you made it here to our information session. Congratulations on that. But don't forget the next very important date, which is July 30th. Our proposals are due on July 30th. So that's going to be at midnight Pacific time. So for those of us on the East Coast, it gives us that little extra 3-hour boost after our midnight. But that is going to be July 30th at midnight Pacific time. And we will be looking at these proposal presentations and applications in August. So we will be sending out our first draft of applications in September. So if you're waiting to know if you were accepted as a presenter or not, that information should be available to you starting around September timeframe. And then, of course, our conference dates in wonderful Berlin are May 15th through the 18th. So that's a Wednesday through a Saturday, as has been standard the last few years now. So any questions before I move on these dates? Fantastic. Okay, this is a really common set of questions that we get. It's really one of our biggest questions is what type of presentation is this? Carrie is asking a great question. Thank you, Carrie. Will everyone be notified, yes or no, if their proposal is accepted? Yes, that is a great question. Yes, you will definitely find out. Now, of course, sometimes between the time that people apply and the time that they are notified, their plans change. So if we, for example, accepted someone's proposal and they're not able to participate, we might go kind of down the list to the next wonderful presentation that we just didn't have room for at that point. So we, generally speaking, will make a first round and a second round. So if your friends start posting about they're coming to Berlin, haven't heard anything, just hold tight. But we will definitely let you know one way or the other. We won't leave you hanging, I promise. Does that satisfy your question, Carrie? Yes, no? Hope so. You're very welcome. Okay, great. So types of presentations. One of the most frequent questions that we get is, I have this idea, but what is it? Is this a demo? Is this a LECMO? Is it a lecture or a panel? Or is it a lecture or a LECMO? These are all really tricky things. So I'm just going to go into a brief description of what each of these really feel like. So a demonstration, we all can probably identify pretty easily what that looks like, especially in the hot shop. Our demonstrations, they're 90-minute time frame, and we have hot, cold, flame, and neon demonstrations. So we have spaces dedicated every year to those different glass modalities. Now, a lot of times people ask, well, hey, I have a demo that I want to do in the hot shop, but I'm going to be narrating it. So is that a LECMO? Nope, that's still a demo. We do generally expect that you will be talking during your demonstration. It's not required. If you are doing a demonstration about glass and silence, sure, okay, keep it quiet. But generally speaking, you would narrate or talk during your demonstration. So just because a lecture is involved or part of it, or any sort of narrative or didactic, it still is going to fall in the demonstration category. So again, hot glass demonstrations, cold modalities demonstrations such as engraving, gluing, I think stained glass would probably fall into that category. Beading, for example, those could all be a demonstration. Flame as well, definitely a demonstration in the flame shop, and neon. Okay, next down the road we have a lecture. So lectures receive a 60-minute time slot. It's generally one person speaking. You can do a combined lecture if you like. That is 60 minutes. We'll have AV capabilities. So if you want to show slides, hi, Ricardo. If you want to show slides and have an AV component to your lecture, absolutely fine. A LECMO. Okay, now this is the tricky one. So a LECMO is you can't hear anything. Oh dear. Is everyone else able to hear me? Ricardo, that might be okay. Ricardo, maybe try raising your volume. Oh dear. Okay, well, I'm not sure. Sounds like a couple of people are having some volume issues. Maybe try leaving the meeting and coming back in, or checking if you have some headphone issues, or did someone just unmute?
I just logged out and then I tested my speaker and logged back in, and that seemed to work.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and try that. Oh, well, they can't hear me, so yeah, there we go. Thank you, Carrie. If you great. Okay, so hopefully they get that together. I guess I was just expecting them to be really good at lip reading. Great. Okay, so a LECMO is a 90-minute time frame, so you have a little bit more time to a LECMO. And generally speaking, this is for processes that really can't be done start to finish in the space of 90 minutes. So kiln casting, mold making, things like that, where you can kind of do what we refer to as like a cooking show style presentation, where you have some part of the process that you demonstrate, but then perhaps another piece that you worked on before and can present as if you're pulling the completed turkey out of the oven, Julia Child style. So a LECMO is, generally speaking, not going to be in the hot shop. It could be in theory in the cold shop, but it is generally not a hot shop or a flame shop situation. So do I have any questions about LECMOs right now? Because again, this is one of the tricky ones where we're always getting questions. Not only is this a LECMO or a demo, but is this a LECMO or a lecture? If you have just samples of materials that you're laying out on a table, that's probably still a lecture. Asking to be, So I'm going to put in the chat that we have a recording of this. Okay. Where were we? Okay, LECMO. So does anyone have any questions about the LECMO at this point? Will there be audio visuals projection during demos? Great question. Generally speaking, now every venue is different every year, and we are still in the process of working out exactly where we're going to be and what capabilities we're going to have. But we do try to have a camera set up, especially in the cold shop, because we do understand that can be a really challenging thing to be able to get enough people close enough to the cold working action to see what's going on. So if you have something that is going to necessitate pretty close quarters, that is a really great thing to put in your application. Let us know that you would really need a camera set up in your for your presentation, and then we know to keep that in consideration when we are making our plans for our audiovisual rentals and so forth. So again, this is not only about what these things are, but like how to put together a proposal. And so my advice to you is, in general, more information, please. We do have several places within that application where we ask you for things like, what kind of equipment are you bringing? What kind of equipment are you requesting? So if you have something where you really need, for example, that great question, Lothar, some projection for detailed viewing, toss it in the application so we know. Okay. And we have a question. Go ahead, please.
Hello. My question is about LECMO. It says it's kiln and mold making. Is that possible to do some flame working demonstration also? Because I've got some projects. I wrote a thesis about Bauhaus and glass making. So I would like to combine this lecture and demonstration together. So is that possible to do with the flame working also, LECMO, or just kiln and mold making? Yeah, I mean, the LECMO is only the telling your process, or you can tell the relationship between the Bauhaus and other things. Can we tell? Or
First of all,
is that clear?
that sounds fascinating.
Okay.
That's a really great question. I think please submit that, because I would be very fascinated to see that. I think it kind of fits more in a flame demonstration, but that would be a maybe. And when we basically what we would need to know is that you have slides in addition to wanting to do a live demo, and then we could figure out if it made more sense, when we figure out what our flame studio is going to look like. We would probably want to put you in the flame studio because, for example, our LECMO space isn't going to have flame working equipment. It's going to have tables. It's going to have, like a screen for presentations, but it's not going to have a torch set up for you. So we would probably want to put you in the flame shop if we have the ability to do projection and slides in there. So just send us the information, let us know what you're doing, and then if you were to be accepted as a presenter, then we figure that out on the back end. But it's a really great question because, like I said, it's tricky. There is some kind of gray area, and we're artists. We get creative with it. We're creative problem solvers. So we just figure out when we have a great presentation like that, we just figure out how to make it work. So we are flexible and always excited to see new and interesting variations on all of these different categories within reason, of course, folks. Thank you so much. Can you pronounce your name for me, please?
Güçlü.
Güçlü.
It's hard to pronounce. Yeah, I know. Guchlu. Güçlü.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that great question.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions on the LECMO? Do welcome anyone here. If you are interested in asking more questions, you don't think it maybe might be applicable to the rest of the group, but you have questions that are really, really specific, you're also very welcome to just send those questions to me. I'm going to pop my email in the chat right now for you. Just very simple, jennifer@glassart.org. And you can send me an email and we can go back and forth and work it out together. Very happy to do that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to panels. So panels are given a 90 and sometimes up to 2-hour slot. And for a panel, it is a group discussion, which is wonderful because you get to hear more than one voice on a subject. And for that, you have a moderator who's basically the person who has the fantastic idea for a conversation that needs to happen in the field, and then up to 3 panelists. And we do really like to keep it to 3 panelists because more than that, there's just not enough time for everyone to share their contribution to the discussion. So if we keep it to a moderator, mostly asking questions, and 3 panelists answering them, that is what we have found is the best format for a panel. So when you are putting together a proposal for any presentation at a GAS conference, you really want to know who's going to be doing this presentation, right? Whether it's yourself, whether you're submitting on behalf of someone else, whether, for example, you and a friend have this really cool hotshot process that you do together, so you're submitting a collaborative demonstration proposal. You really want to make sure you know exactly who is going to be doing this presentation. With panels, it's really no different. If you have a conversation that you want to see happen, you should have a pretty good idea of who the voices are that you want to hear having that conversation. So we understand it's really tricky to propose a presentation and get confirmation and all that kind of thing from a bunch of people. Yes, herding cats is a full-time occupation in the arts nonprofit field, but just come with a pretty good idea of who you want your panelists to be. They don't have to be 100% confirmed and on board, but it is going to be on the moderator to do the brunt of the work of chasing down your panelists and getting them confirmed and making sure that you have a good idea of who's going to be having this conversation. Okay, any questions on panelists right now? Again, 90 minutes, generally speaking, conversations that you want to hear. Fantastic. Guy, hello.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
I have a little question. If, say, for example, I had an idea to submit for a panel discussion, and one of the panel members I know is already intending on submitting a LECMO of their own, would that be an issue to have the same person occupy 2 spaces?
That is a great question. Thank you so much for asking that question. And actually, I'm going to answer another question first that you didn't ask, but would be relevant to you in particular. So here's one little factoid that I should probably throw out there before I answer this. Anyone who demonstrated in the past presented at GAS in the past 3 years, unfortunately, cannot apply again to present. We love all of our amazing members, and we need to give everyone a chance to have a seat at the table. However, that being said, there is a slight exception to this in that if you are not a moderator but a panelist, you can kind of slip under. So that is a much smaller piece of the pie, if you will. So if you did a demonstration, lecture, LECMO, or if you are moderator for a panel, in the last 3 years, you're not eligible to be the primary presenter or moderator, I guess until 2028, 2027. Yeah, thank you, Lothar. I'm gonna try to lay it out because it is a little mind bending here. So if you where was it? So if you were a demonstrator, lecturer, LECMO, or panel moderator, or if you presented a film performance or something like that, you are ineligible for the next 3 years. However, you can still serve as a panelist, but not a moderator. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. Okay. And absolutely, to answer your actual question, Guy, thank you for your patience there. If your friend is already demonstrating, then yes, they would still be eligible to be a panelist for sure. So that's not a problem. It's actually really great. You know, it takes a lot of resources to get to these conferences. We do understand that. And especially for just being on a panel, it's really hard for folks to justify, coming all the way out. So sometimes it's nice to be able to be in multiple roles in that way. Yeah, and we really do want, when we're thinking about panels, to have the best and most appropriate voices to be having that conversation, whatever the conversation topic is. Okay, and I see a couple of hands raised, I think. You're welcome, Guy.
You're welcome, Guy.
Okay. Hi. So we're in the position that there are 3 panelists, myself as an art historian and an artist and a glass technician. Is it important that we have our moderator already?
I think we've got an echo, but that is a great question. If you want to self-moderate and just keep it to 3 speakers, that's fine. Yep, that we've had that happen before. We had a wonderful legal panel in Detroit where we just had our 3 lawyers, and they were fantastic and able to keep each other on task and on topic and ask each other questions. So the format is usually there's a moderator who's kind of posing the questions to the 3 panelists, but especially if you are communicating amongst yourselves, which it sounds like you already are, and you know what it is that you want to present and what questions you want to pose to each other and or be able to take from the audience, that really shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, again, we're creative, we're flexible, if that is the best format for this. But then yeah, if you're like, oh wow, wait, oh my gosh, we forgot this person would be really great to have in here too, sneak them in as your moderator, not a problem. Okay, I hope that answers that question. All right, any more panel questions for right now? Oh yes, Morgan.
I'm also got a question. Would a conversation between two people best presented as a co-lecture or as a panel?
Ooh, we've got a winner for the Stump the Conference Manager game. That's a great question, Morgan. Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna say you could probably propose that as either. And I'm sure that the selection committee will mull over that question. And oh, Brandy, thank you. Our executive director is going to chime in because I'm like, wow, I don't know.
I agree with what you're saying, Jen. I think it can go either way. I think it really boils down to how much time you think you're going to need, because that is the significant difference between a lecture and a panel. A panel lasts an hour and a half. A lecture is only an hour. So depending on how in-depth you plan on going with your conversation, I would say put it in as a panel just to give yourself that extra time. But honestly, it would work in either way.
So would that be possible then in this year's submission interface to indicate that like we'd maybe be okay with either way depending on how y'all's scheduling goes? Or do we need to like decide and say like, no, we're only applying it this way?
You know, you have to select one. I would just type it in the extra notes. And Jen's going to go through the actual application process here at the end, and you'll be able to see where you can just type that information so we can consider it both ways.
All right, perfect. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Morgan. And thank you, Brandy. That's a really great point, that time frame. Okay. So our last category is kind of an umbrella category, other. So that encompasses films, performances, and things like pop-up exhibitions. Film is pretty straightforward. Yes, of course, you are able to present film snippets as part of a panel, part of a lecture, even part of a LECMO. But if you're thinking something that's really more of a standalone, you are presenting this film as the piece that you are proposing. It's a finished product. It is. It doesn't have to be a feature-length film. It can be shorter, like 20 to 30 minutes. We got some really neat Finnish experimental film that we got to show at the Detroit Film Theater this year. Amazing. So film is one category. Performance. Now, of course, hot glass is the most performative material on the planet. So what is the difference between a demonstration and a performance? We could spend years debating that question. But if you have something that you feel is more of a performance piece than a demonstration, please do feel free to submit it under that category. In our last information session, we had someone who was kind of trying to figure out that balance of what her piece fit into. And I just advised her to submit it both ways because you can do that. You can submit more than one application. You are not limited to one. If you have a bunch of great ideas and you don't know which one the selection committee is going to like the most, send them to us. Now, you know, if we see your name pop up 8 to 10 times and we're having to review all of those extra applications, yeah, we might get a little bit annoyed with you. That might, you know, cut down your chances. We are human after all. But within reason, please feel free to submit more than one idea if you're just full of them and you need to get them out of your head. We'll love to see them. So performance, you know, for example, in Detroit this year, we had the amazing Bohan Yoon and an orchestra doing laser art in the Detroit Film Theater for our conference kickoff. Performances might take a slightly different feel than a demonstration. But for example, if your performance requires a hot shop, that is information that we definitely need to know. So put that information in those notes because we just need to know what's going on. Now, a pop-up exhibition is another type of other proposal that you can send us. And just to give everyone a heads up, we love having pop-ups alongside the conference. It's not something that we would be able to fully fund as far as, shipping artwork and taking on the responsibility for other people's precious work. But it could be something that we could and will be something that we would add to the conference program book to let other folks know that is happening during the conference timeframe. So definitely, if you have questions about pop-up exhibition possibilities, please send an email and ask me any questions before applying, so we can make sure that everyone's expectations are as they should be. We just want to make sure that we are being really clear about what we can and cannot provide in terms of support for pop-up exhibitions. Okay, so those are our types of presentations. And I'm going to move along to the next slide unless we have any other questions here. Oh, fantastic. We got some raised hands. I love it. Ricardo, hopefully you can hear me at this point.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Finally, unfortunately, I lost the beginning, and just wanted to ask. In my case, I wanted to show, I think that is much more like a lecture, because I'm coming out with some new materials that I'm making the forms when I'm doing my fusing. And that is are materials that I'm not using. I forgot the word in English. The gyps, the white, the
A plaster?
The plaster. Thank you. And I think that I would be very happy to show it, because it's making my life much easier. And then I'm thinking on the lecture. The thing is that if I should bring the material with me or just pictures, or because in a sort of way I'm kind of close to Berlin because I'm in Czech Republic, then it would be easier than what is for you more. Actually, I think that for the people it's always much more interesting when they can touch it. But then this is a thing that then this is a lecture, this is a LECMO, this is a demonstration, this is what?
Mm-hmm. It sounds to me like it's somewhere between a lecture and a LECMO. If you're just bringing the materials for people to be able to pick up and handle after you speak and after you do slides, lecture. If you want to give a quick demo of, whatever the process is, adding water, working with the materials, sounds more like a LECMO to me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Brandy. Okay, you already answered. Okay, thank you very, very much.
Yep, very welcome. Okay, next, Hortsby. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
How's that? Better?
Much better. Thank you.
Much better. Okay, hi. Kvatsvi, Bettina is the name. Hi, I'm based in Berlin, and I have a studio here. And my question is, I'm a conservator and an artist, and I do historic chandeliers and conservation and restoration. And I worked on this great project from an early 18th century chandelier that went through a metamorphosis. So I was wondering if that would be like an interesting lecture, because it kind of spans from 1720 to late 20th century and is now in a museum in Dresden. So I don't know if that would be of interest for the guests, for the whole situation. So I just wanted to ask flat out.
It certainly sounds like an interesting lecture. Yes, please.
Okay.
I think that would be a very interesting thing, especially given, the locality.
Right.
When we are in a city, we want to highlight things happening in and around that city and the region. So yes, please go ahead and submit that. Anything that's glass related. I mean, I'm not alone in the conference committee folks. We're all glass nerds here, right?
Absolutely. Completely infected by the glass virus.
Yeah, exactly. We all, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I don't also know if it would be of interest if anybody wants to see the studio. I mean, it's a very unique space, so I am open to that. But I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yep. Could you please send me an email so that we can connect and
Sure.
all sorts of things. We like to make sure that we're highlighting all the local studios.
Sure.
So it's really great to just connect and so we can see what the possibilities are there.
Okay, great. Where do I find your email?
Oh, wonderful. I put it in the chat. It's just Jennifer@glassart.org. I'm going to put it in the chat again.
at glassart.org. Okay.
It's right there in the chat for you,
Perfect.
for everyone.
Thank you. I'll be sure to get that out to you. Thanks.
Great. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you.
All right, next, I think we have Claudia.
Hello.
Hello.
So I live in Berlin, and my question is it better if there is a space like in Berlin hosting the exhibition, or should I apply for a pop-up exhibition in the spaces which are thought for the conference?
Great question. If you have a location for your pop-up, that really increases your chances. So,
Okay. And for example, if I know like a gallerist who would like to have an exhibition with me next year, I could propose to this gallery, let's have the exhibition in May when there is the conference.
mhm.
It's a possibility, no?
Yes, absolutely. So it's really challenging for us to find, in every city, it's always tricky, to find exhibition space, and that's always a challenge. So if you're coming to us with an exhibition that already has a location, well done.
Another question, and if, for example, instead I know a space and I would like to apply to curate an exhibition there, is it possible to mix glass artists and other kind of artists, or it's better just to have glass?
I would be very interested. I'm sure that everyone on the selection committee would be very interested to see either way. Of course, once again, glass virus, we're all infected. So some glass needs to be in the exhibition, or should be, for a successful application. But yeah, of course, we're all also artists, not just glass artists, right? So makers who are interested in other media. So, okay. And Brandy, I think, has something to chime in there, and then we'll get to Lothar.
Yeah, I just want to say, especially given this year's theme of where art and design meet, I think it would be extremely interesting to see an exhibition that included more than just glass, because that is going to be a large part of the conversation we're having this year, is the crossover between the medium of glass and other types of artists that are now working with glass or trying to incorporate it into their practice. So I think it would be really interesting to take a look at an exhibition that maybe explores that or includes other ways of working as well. So again, just my 2 cents. As Jen alluded to, there are about 30 of us that participate in the proposal review process. So all these folks have opinions and thoughts, but I think this particular theme and conference is very well suited for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Brandy. All right, Lothar, we are to your question. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. We lathe riders, we're thinking of getting some cold work equipment up to Berlin. So that's going to be a little bit of a call it a daunting task, because you can't just carry it in your backpack. So so the question is, like, are there venues, or are there places that have already been designated, and who can we get into contact with? And I know there's a proposal that needs to go in, but we just sort of want to get an idea. Can we bring 2 lathes, 3 lathes, or that type of thing, and that we could do demos, and use the equipment. And then also, when do we start setting up? If the conference is from the 15th, must we be there on the 10th? Because or whichever, just a rough estimate. I think those questions will be in any case in the proposal, but I'm just throwing it in there because I'm sure a couple of other demonstrators, etc., will maybe bring some materials or tools up. And then just a last question with regard to this is, if we set up a cold shop area, could we do more than 1 demo? In other words, if we have several artists, that maybe we can split it up, not have the same thing over and over, obviously, but just a sneak peek, or showing how the cold work process works, or special techniques, or whichever.
Great questions. Thank you so much.
I guess, sorry to interrupt you. I guess everybody would have to write their own proposal.
That would make sense.
you see where the dilemma just comes in is that we need to get a proposal then probably in to set up a cold shop and have that as one proposal, and then that's the others then link up towards that. I would imagine.
No, I do definitely see that. These are great questions and definitely great things to talk about directly with our site committee. So what I'm going to ask is that you, again, just send me an email so we can start talking about, equipment. That is a little bit of a separate bubble from, the presentation proposal, but of course, very intimately connected. And again, there is a section that we're going to get to in the application where you indicate what equipment you have available that you can bring with you. So that is definitely where you would want to put this down and be able to let us know that, yes, you're proposing a lathe demonstration and you have one to bring with you, because otherwise we might look at that and be like, oh, well, this is a lathe demonstration, but we don't have a lathe. So I guess we can't, accept this. So again, there will be a space in that application to be able to indicate that. But then offline, of course, away from the application process, we would definitely need to connect with the site committee, our venues and everything. But we are always very grateful. The glass community generally year after year supports us by providing in-kind donations of supplies and equipment so that we can set up a flame studio, several hot shops, cold working facilities, all of these things year after year in different cities around the world. So we do depend on the kindness and generosity of glass artists and organizations like yourself to make all these things happen. So let's talk about it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Great.
Thank you.
And for example, just to kind of give you an idea, this year in Detroit, once again, we had the Neon Makers Guild, and they proposed all sorts of things. But what ended up happening was kind of like a mega demo, where it was multiple demonstrators kind of underneath the umbrella of the Neon Makers Guild, who did like an all-day takeover on Saturday to really be able to show off what the Neon Makers Guild is and what they are up to in the neon space. So that was a very, very specific to Detroit kind of thing, especially because we had overlap with the Michigan Glass Project and being able to really make all these different neat networking connections there. But if you are looking to have multiple demonstration slots using that equipment, you can propose multiple demonstrations and just, again, make a note in the application that these are all kind of, lathe riders, Lothar, lathe riders, James, so that it can be like a branded sub demonstration. Love that idea. That could be super fun. So, okay. I think that there were a whole lot of questions in that package there, sir, but I think I got to most of them. Is there something good? All right, awesome. And then we will connect again offline to talk about lathes. Very exciting. Love a good lathe. Okay. Next slide here, folks. Here we go. Okay, venues in Berlin. Wonderful. We have definitely a few already confirmed places that we are going to be working with. And so the two amazing places that we have so far are Wilhelm Hullen and Berlin Glass, and then possible additional lecture and panel space to be determined. It is not yet August, so we've got some ways to go in our planning, but that's what we know so far. So I'm going to give a brief overview of Wilhelm Hullen, which is an amazing creative campus just northwest of Berlin proper, accessible via all public transportation, amazing Berlin public transportation. Cannot wait to try that out later next month. And it's a really great, it is specifically set up for conferences. It's a fantastic facility. You can see here some of their promotional materials. And we will be occupying some of these spaces due to the generosity of Bocce, who is working on building their factory here and are kindly welcoming us into this amazing space. So this is going to be one of the two main hubs of the conference here within Wilhelm Hullen. Is a former iron foundry, I believe, It's just a really neat space. It has, you know, a cafe, just lots and lots of beautiful different types of spaces. Yeah, great stuff. So next, we have Berlin Glass. So this is one of the very few, if not only, open access glass studios within Berlin. And it is going to be hosting some of our, likely some of our demonstrations and or LECMOs. And it is run by our amazing GAS board president, Nadania Idris, and a cast of amazing folks who work very hard to put on some great programming there and do some wonderful things inside the community. And they are located in the Monopol, which is another kind of creative campus, very close to Wilhelm-Halle. It's only one stop away on the metro there. So it's going to be a really great conference destination as well. So Berlin Glass and the Monopol will serve as hub 2, if you will. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions about venues before we move on to the submission process? Wonderful. Okay. How to submit. Now, I break my own rule here about not having too many words on slides because all of this information is really important, and this is a chance you can go ahead and screenshot this or find these slides on our website. All of this information is also on the submittable application, but let's just run through it together really quickly here. Okay, so proposals, as I hope you know at this point, must be submitted via Submittable. The link is there, glassart.submittable.com, and they do need to be submitted by the deadline. We have lots and lots of people submitting, so we cannot accept late applications. I am so sorry. That is July 30th is that deadline. Each proposal must be complete and instructions must be followed fully in order to be considered. Please give us all of the information that you have. If you, when you go through the application, just make sure that you fill it out completely. We do see some people who seem like they had half of a great idea, but didn't quite get it all into the application. And that's always really sad to see that. So make sure you fill out all of the sections. Yeah, if there's something that's not applicable, just say that, or maybe tell us why. Include photos and detailed explanations to help our selection committee understand what unique angle you are bringing to the conference program. So again, you have 30 different brains looking at all of these amazing presentations. So it's really great to have some good details. Some of these people are visual thinkers. Some of these people are text-based thinkers. So give us as many different ways to entice us into accepting your application as you can. Please note that all applications and presentations should be given in English unless otherwise approved. Of course, we are working on being able to provide translation services, but we are a small nonprofit with very limited resources, and we don't have the ability to promise that at this point. So please plan on being able to give the presentation in English, and maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised in the future if we're able to provide those translation services, but otherwise, that is our standard. Thank you. If your presentation includes more than one presenter, you must identify a primary contact person, okay? So if you are doing a collaborative demonstration, that's great, that's fine, but one of you needs to be the person who I know if I need to get a hold of you about something, about important conference presentation updates, that is the person who I am emailing. Of course, I'm gonna email both of you, but we need one absolute responsible party who we are know that we are in contact with. Okay, conference lectures, LECMOs, and panels are required to submit an 800 to 1400 word article regarding their presentation for the 2024 Glass Art Society Journal. You are required. If you are presenting a lecture, a LECMO, or a panel. This is really important because we have this information on the application, we have it on the contract that we send out to presenters, and sometimes people are still surprised when we're like, hey, where's your journal article? Because you have to give it to us before we can pay you your honorarium. And we do this because it is really truly important to have critical documentation of your work, of the work that you brought to the conference to go down in, well, digital or paper, we do both. and provide a documentation of these amazing innovations that we see in our field. So it's really important. If you are a demonstrator, you are more than welcome to submit an article, but we understand that sometimes demonstrations might not lend themselves to the best kind of, might not lend themselves to a journal article, and that's okay. So demonstrators, welcome, encouraged, but not mandatory, but lecture, LECMO, and panel. The moderator for the panel will be the one who submits the journal article, and they are also welcome to compile that from pieces from their panelists. So the moderator is not necessarily responsible for writing it all themselves if they have input from the rest of their panel, but they are responsible for getting it to us, putting it together and getting it to us. Okay. And then I'm just going to say this last part really quick, and then we'll get to some questions that I just saw pop up. You do not need to be a GAS member to present at the conference or to submit a presentation proposal. We would very much like you to be a member because we want everyone to be a member of the Glass Art Society, but it is not mandatory. So, okay, I saw some questions pop up. Let me pull up this queue. Oops, I just raised my own hand. Okay, I think I saw Kat first, if I'm not mistaken.
Hi, yeah, my question is, for the deadline, do we have to have that article done by the deadline, or is there like a secondary deadline for that?
Fantastic question. Nope, the article is due after the conference. So for example, this year, conference was in June. Our journal article deadline is coming up here on August 4th. So you will have a few months to reflect on what you gave and what you learned at the conference, and then compile that together into some beautiful words. Now we do have a wonderful communications team here at GAS, and they will help you edit down. Of course, every year we have international members submitting journal articles. We do understand that sometimes there's going to be a need to help make sure that the journal article reads, smoothly in English. That's fine. We are more than happy. We always edit journal articles. The most important thing is that it fits within the allotted space. So, just making sure that you're not sending us 25 pages when we're asking for more like 5 or 10. Okay? Please don't do that to us. It hurts. It hurts our brains. Okay, so I think we had 2 questions about. Oh, thank you, Christina, talking about options for translation using AI technology apps. Yeah, cheap and effective. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Kind of a grammar nerd, so I like the old school way, but also always nice to be able to use new tools as they become available to us. Okay, so yeah, once again, journal articles, we love them. We do demand them of a certain subset of our presenters. And we are always excited to welcome them from demonstrators as well. Okay, moving on here. Let's just run through what this application looks like really quickly. Make sure that you apply using the 2024 Berlin Conference proposal. Oh, journal articles are expected to be between 800 and 1400 words. Thank you. Yep, good. Okay, so submittable orientation. The second one here, you are not looking to put on an entire conference yourself, or if you are, that's a different information session. So make sure you choose the second, the 2024 Berlin Conference Proposal Application. Okay, and this is the next page you're going to see. As you can see here, you're going to have to select that you are prepared to submit and present this presentation in English, and then you will have to choose what type. But again, there's space below that for information. If you're letting us know that you're flexible and you're willing to do one or the other depending on what the selection committee likes best. So primary presenter, the point of contact. Again, especially because this is an international a conference in Europe this year, we do have a lot of people who are submitting this on behalf of someone else. But we do need to know at that point who the primary presenter is. And who we need to be reaching out to. So if that's not the person who's actually typing in the form here, this is where you would put that information. Okay, so name and email, very important. We need to know who you are. We do ask for a little bio. This is really great to help us not only get to know you a little bit better and see where it is that you are hailing from in the glass field, but also is very useful for our marketing materials and so forth when we're getting to talk about our amazing members and our presenters and all of the great things that they do. This is a space, if you have any co-presenters or panelists, if you select yes to either of these, it will give you additional space to list more names. Your title of your proposed presentation, hopefully pretty straightforward. I'm always a fan of a pun. I'm just going to throw that out there. We want your titles to be interesting and descriptive. It can always be changed later. If you have title anxiety and you're like, man, I have this great idea, but I can't figure out what to call it, just send us something generic. We'll figure it out later, okay? We can always edit that up until our program book goes to print. After that, it's set in stone. Okay, presentation description. This is really our bread and butter here. This is what the selection committee is looking at in addition to your photos to really truly understand what it is you are trying to do. So you should have plenty of room with the submittable application here to put in a full detailed description. Okay, equipment and supplies provided by you. Let's talk about lathes right here. Yep, you see it, Lothar. So if you are bringing your supplies, this is where you put that information. What was the word limit? I believe it's around 250, Morgan. Thank you for that great question. What is the word limit on the proposal text? Okay, we have a question. What should I include in the presentation description if I want to apply for the pop-up exhibition? Great question. So maybe things like the name of the pop-up, whether you have a gallery that's already committed to doing it or interested or open to it, the theme of the exhibition, the type of artwork, if you have artists who are committed to participating in it with you, just really to let us know what you're trying to bring to the conference in the form of that pop-up exhibition. Does that answer that question for you? Wonderful, you're very welcome. Okay, so equipment and supplies provided by you. And if your presentation is going to require equipment, materials, or supplies outside of the standard usually provided, let us know there. So if you select yes there, it's going to give you an option to tell us what you need and that you're not bringing with you. Okay, so if you're saying, oh, I'm doing a hot shop demonstration, I'm going to need a furnace. We know. You don't have to put that there. We know you're going to need a furnace if you're doing a hot shop demo, okay? If you're doing a flame demo and you need a torch, we know. But if, for example, you need a flame working lathe, that would be an important thing to let us know because that is not necessarily standard, okay? Okay, so does your presentation require more than the standard 1 to 2 hour time block? Again, we're flexible, we're creative. If you're doing like a durational performance where you're going to be locking yourself in a glass box all day, okay, let us know. that would be more than an hour, right? So definitely let us know there. You know, maybe it's not necessarily a deal breaker if you need more time than an hour or your 90 minutes. We just need to know when we're putting together our grid what amount of time things are going to run, and to be able to see if we can fit that in the program or not. So please, again, more information, always better. Okay, and then right at the bottom, you will have the opportunity to upload images or video. So we do ask for one headshot or image of you working. Again, that is for our marketing mostly. Images are just, again, to help us understand what it is that you are bringing to the table. We had a great question last time about someone doing a lecture on glass science. It's kind of hard to think of what images to use for the proposal. And they just put together some great images that they use to teach their students about glass molecular structure. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exactly it doesn't have to be a picture of you lecturing, just something that kind of helps the selection committee understand what you're bringing to the table, what is exciting about your presentation. It's just get them excited about what it is you have to say. right? Oh, you're very welcome, Christine. I know we were almost at time, so I'm just going to keep running through these really quickly. This is a really important slide, so please, folks, let's just stay tuned for this last one, and then I will stay after if anyone has any additional questions. Okay, what does diversity mean to GAS? At GAS, we are looking to create a conference that is representative of the widest possible swath of the GLAS community. Okay, so that is deeply, deeply important to everyone on the GAS team. So what does that mean specifically? So we wanted our proposals to be inclusive of diverse artistic and professional identities within the GLAS community. We strongly encourage artists of the global majority and LGBTQIA+ members to apply. So these are the different categories of diversity. Diverse methods of working with GLAS. I know everyone gets super excited about the hot shop, but that is not the only way to work with GLAS. I'm pretty sure everyone on this call knows that, okay? We want to see all of the different ways that people make beautiful, interesting, fascinating things and ideas with GLAS. Geographical diversity, okay? We have members all over the world, and we want to make sure that their voice is being heard, because people work with GLAS very differently in Sao Paulo than they do in San Diego. Or they work in a similar way that shows the amazing connections between the field. We want to see it all, okay? Diverse ranges in career levels from emerging to established artists. Those youngsters are always coming up with interesting ways to break and remake the system. We want to hear about it. Diverse representation of race, class, sexuality, gender expression, and ability. We want to make sure that we're representing all of our community. And diversity of experience, the you factor, right? We want to hear your voice shine through in your proposal. So that is what diversity means to GAS specifically. We have so many polls that we try to represent to make sure that everyone feels welcome and invited and invigorated by the program that we put together. Okay, thank goodness it is time for me to stop talking. So let's see if we have any last minute questions. And then once again, Jennifer at glassart.org for any additional questions, or if you really just want to dig into something. Ron, hi, logged in late. Please describe audience by percentage. Okay, we have round 2 of Stump the Conference presenter. All artists, GLAS vendors, civic officials. That's okay. So I'm not going to be able to give you exact percentages. I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing here, but this is a great, very interesting question. So I would say we have probably a majority of artists and art students, but we do also have a significant number of GLAS vendors. So we had a lot of vendors last year in Detroit and in Tacoma as well. Civic officials, that's an interesting one. They do come to the conference. Local folks do come to the conference, civic officials and personalities and so forth. But I would say the vast majority of who comes to the conference are the GLAS Art Society members, who are mostly artists, collectors, curators, but we welcome anyone who is passionate about and interested in GLAS. If you just watched Blown Away for the first time last year and you're like, wow, this stuff is cool, can I come to the conference? Yes, please, come learn. Sorry in advance if you get sucked into it and your entire life is now spent dedicated to this very mean material. But yes, we welcome you. Please come. We're a lot of fun. Okay, that was one question. I think, Kat, you had another one. Thank you so much.
So I've never done like a panel or a presentation or anything like this before. What does the GAS conference like provide to us to get us there? Are we just like get to Berlin on your own, you show up, you get a conference pass? What all is involved?
That is a really great question. Thank you so much for asking it. So generally speaking, GAS is not able to provide travel and accommodations. However, we do provide you with a complimentary conference pass and an honorarium for your, that is basically a gesture to thank you for your time. We know, I'm sure many of us know what nonprofit work is like. We are a very, very small nonprofit with limited resources, and we are dedicated to supporting our artists. But that is what we have, what we are able to offer. Last year, our demonstration and lecture honoraria, for example, were $400 US. We are working very hard right now to be able to raise that number, and we hope to be able to. But you know, it's certainly not up to me. It's not up to Brandy. We have a whole board who makes these decisions on behalf of the entire Glass Art Society and our ability to be sustainable into the future. So it's a very long answer to that very simple question. Sorry about that.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Full transparency is always important. Yeah. So yeah. Yes, always working on finding more ways to support our artists and community. And we hope to be able to offer even more support in the future. So that's that is one of the top of our missions. Great question. Thank you so much, Kat. Anyone else? We got a lot of questions throughout the presentation, so I think hopefully most people are able to get their questions throughout the time here. Thank you so much, Morgan. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for coming. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today, folks. Again, Jennifer at glassart.org if you have any further questions. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in Berlin. Take care. Woo, Berlin. Auf Wiedersehen. Oh, Josh, you raised a hand. Ah, you just got me. Oh, he left. Never mind. Right. Wrong button. Bye, folks.
Stay safe.
Thank you, you too.
Awesome. Great job, Jen. That went
Thank
well.
you. Oh, sorry. Hold. Bye. Stop recording. There we go.